Welcome to IGH Going Rogue. Today's Wednesday, February the 26th, and we're just going to come right out of the gates quickly. Our guest is on limited time. Former Special Agent Victor Avila. Victor, it's always a pleasure to talk to you. You are, man, you're a hero. You're a patriot. You're a legend, and definitely an authority. Right now, when this issue is front and center, and it's so important, and something that you've been talking about for a while, I've been talking about for a long time as well. It seems like it was going on deaf ears for a long time, and it feels amazing to have President Trump back in the White House, to have Tom Homan in the position that he's in, and hopefully now that they're going to start listening to folks like you. I do have some concerns, and I'm going to voice them really quick, and then I'm going to let you kind of do your thing. But one of the concerns I have is that there seems to be this extreme overconfidence that if we want to go take out the cartels, we'll go crush them and kill them and wipe them out like cockroaches. I think that is I don't want to come across the wrong way, but it's almost an infantile comment, to not say ignorance, right? I believe we know who these people are. They're not, campesinitos. They hire fucking mercenaries, a lot of people, and just so you know the rules, it's truth bombs, F-bombs, no bullshit, so let's fucking go.
That's right. You're spot on, and I agree with you there. You can't underestimate the cartels, and obviously they have been designated as foreign terrorist organizations, which it's a game changer for the United States. That's good. So I've been talking about this for many, many years. A lot of my colleagues and I have been pushing for this, and it's officially done through the State Department. And it happened last week, where Secretary Rubio actually put them in the books under the State Department. So they're classified just like ISIS, just like the Taliban. But yes, it just doesn't mean that, we're going to go in there and wipe them. We can, but you cannot underestimate the cartels because of the sophistication networks that they have. Yes, they're headquartered in Mexico, but they are heavily present in the United States and, according to the DEA, 65 countries around the world. And think about that. You think about the intelligence level that they have, the networking, and cartel members. What's a cartel member? What does it look like? Where are they? Well, they look like you and me, and they're teachers, lawyers, bankers, police officers, unfortunately, in some cases, and a lot of gang members and a lot of different types of people from A through Z.
Hey, Victor, and there's a list that you mentioned. Tren de Aragua, MS-13, obviously, but there's the cartels, right? Sinaloa, Jalisco, Gulf, El Golfo, right?
I love that list. Whoever was, advising on the list, I agree with it 100%. La Familia Michoacana, which is great, to be on there. Obviously, Los Zetas, who killed my partner and shot me, they're there as well. And so this is a great list. But so there's several things happening with the designation. One, you have to attack the cartels where it hurts the most, and that's financially. Yeah, and so what this does is strips some of their assets or properties or their monies that they have everywhere, especially in the U.S., hurt them there financially. Then what I think is happening, and I think they're laying the platform and the foundation, is the potential military intervention. Now, it doesn't mean going into Mexico. It means a lot of things. But look, we already have special forces going over there to train their special forces. We have the drones flying over Mexico gathering intel. We have our military flying over Mexican airspace, granted by permission by the Mexicans, to patrol, especially over the Arizona Sonora area desert. So there's a lot of things happening here. Why is all this thing happening? Because we have to prepare ourselves, because, like you said, the cartel's not going to throw their hands up in the air and say, okay, we're done. It's over. No.
Trump is president. We give up. Right. That's not going to happen, bro.
It's not going to happen. It's expect violence. Yeah. Expect a response. Yeah. And the fentanyl it's piling up in Mexico. They need to bring it. Yeah. The human bodies are still going to get smuggled. So that's another thing that you're going to have to see is the smuggling. Now, one thing that I saw in the last week, which is kind of crazy for me, cartel members getting taken down and arrested in Mexico. Big seizures of drugs in Mexico and of weapons. And I know why. It's because President Trump gave them 30 days, remember? Yep. He says, if not, I'm going to take away the tariffs. So Mexico right now is like trying to write a list, like the same thing that Elon Musk said, give me 5 things you did last week. Well, Mexico's
Yeah, they're writing their list, right?
we took down this load, we did it. Well, I think they're doing that to prove to President Trump whatever they can to avoid the tariff, the 25%, the tariff, because it's a lot of people think, it's just a tariff. Listen, it's so impactful for Mexico. 84% of the things and goods that come from Mexico come to the United States, and so it would really hurt them. That's the problem. I don't have a problem with that. The problem I have is with the cartel members in our country. Yeah. What are they going to do, Ivan? What are they going to do?
Yeah, I was about to bring that up. I was about to bring that up with you. Is obviously you have a personal story that I would love to get into in a minute, or maybe after this dialogue. But people are like, well, what if the cartels, attack our troops or our ICE agents on the border, or there's rumors about them using drones to attack us. Oh, we'll go in there and wipe them out. It's not going to be that easy. But there are cartel members here. That's what people don't understand. They think that these people are in Mexico and Colombia and Peru and Bolivia, wherever, in the Cartel de los Soles in Venezuela, and they just ship it. Like, they send it via DHL, and somebody, at Miami International Airport or O'Hare or JFK, picks it up, clears customs, and, puts it on street corners, right? It doesn't work that way. And people don't understand that. And I don't know if you can explain for the vast majority, because you understand, a lot of people don't know, right? And they just, I don't know, maybe they just don't have the curiosity to understand. But how does that process work? There's a logistical process, right? And there are people along the way that all work for the cartels. And there are a lot of these people here, which are a threat and danger right now, this minute, this second, to U.S. citizens.
Spot on. You're spot on. It is a network of a lot of different types of people. Not just, like you said, not just the couriers, not just the mules that pick up. I'm talking about integrated networks, because part of the whole network and the business of the cartels is the money. They have to do something with the money. And so you have people financing them. The money laundering aspect of this is out of control. Yep. You name the business, and the cartels have had their hand in it. Their money is incorporated in the world banking system. This is how significant this is. So when you have all these illicit funds traveling through as many channels as you can, we have a problem. I call them reps. They have reps in the U.S. permanently. They live here, and their sole purpose to be in the U.S. is to do many, many things, not just scout, not just deliver drugs, but conduct businesses with their illicit money.
So these are business people, right? Not just soldiers, right?
I'll give you one example. There was a business open. It was in Fort Worth, Texas, and I talked to the owner. This was the owner of the business. She was opening a restaurant in a little strip mall in Fort Worth, and she does her thing, the legal paperwork to open a restaurant, and she finally gets to open. And then one day, 2 guys mysteriously in a car drive up and park in front, and they walk in and they start basically interrogating her. And she's like, "Who the hell are you guys?" And they were cartel members, and they wanted to know, because this is what I'm telling you. This example is a real story, by the way.
Right.
Well, they wanted to know who she was, what she wanted, what her intentions, who she was connected with. And all that, and at this point she wasn't extorted, which is good, but they were checking to see who's coming into their territory, because they control that, even the shopping center.
Wow.
So in Texas,
that's crazy.
This happens in Mexico all the time. And in Mexico, the people in Mexico, they're tired of being extorted. Yeah. They're sick and tired of paying the cartel the quota every 2 weeks, every month, just because they have a business. Yeah. They're sick and tired of that and being terrorized and the violence and everything else.
Los famosos cupos. Los cupos, right? Los cupos.
Yeah. So it's and so this happens in the U.S. more than people know, and the audacity of the way these guys kind of carry themselves around the whole entire United States. this is the part where I don't know how these guys are going to retaliate. They're not going to like the fact that the pressure is coming on from the federal government. A lot of these guys are U.S. citizens. A lot of them are illegal too, and so we have to weed these guys out, identify them, and get them out of here. But is it going to take an act? This is the part that I'm not sure what's going to happen. Is the cartel going to do something that's going to trigger the United States an incredible response? Or, to me, they've already triggered us with thousands and thousands of deaths with fentanyl pills. Yeah. I think that's enough. But are they going to, like you said, are they going to want to kill a Border Patrol agent or a police officer or a civilian and spark this incredible response by the United States where we're not gonna care? Donald Trump's not gonna care,
right.
and then you will see a military action that has never been seen before.
Yeah, it would be decimating, but, and I say the but because there would be a lot of violence and casualties here in the streets. I've seen it, you've seen it, we've seen it in Mexico, we've seen it in Colombia, we've seen it in the streets of Peru. Coche bombas, car bombs, drive-bys. I mean, it is bloodshed, it is nasty, it's extremely violent, and the American people are not used to that, right?
They're not. You might see it on TV and you think, oh, it all happens over there. Right. Well, remember, it used to happen in Middle East.
Yeah.
It was 6,000 miles away. Well, you know what? Look at, I know you want to talk about this. The rancher was just killed on the other side of the border with an IED.
Right there. Pull it up.
IED. Him. Oh, by the way, it was 2 people that died. A third person is in the hospital.
Yep.
But an IED, that's right. That's right. Because they're terrorists. They have car bombs, IEDs, shoulder propelled grenade launchers, belt-fed machine guns, military-grade weapons. Yes, armored vehicles. Now, I know when people say you want to compare the cartel to U.S. military, well, of course, they're not going to be a match to our full-blown military, but it doesn't mean that they can't take down a helicopter.
Okay.
It doesn't mean that they can take down an airplane or kill somebody. They obviously have the capabilities.
Yeah, I mean, look, they have unlimited money, so they can buy the best weapons out in the black market, right? I mean, that's a fact. It's a known fact. We've talked offline many times, and I've known plenty of, and I know plenty of folks, in the DEA that have done, Latin America, Mexico, Peru, whatever. And they used to tell me, we know exactly who they are.
Oh, yeah.
If we want to go meet with them, we just call their admin and set up an appointment. It's he's like, the issue is arresting them, because you don't have evidence or proof or whatever. And, whatever, it's more complicated than that. But they're surrounded by people that are very well trained, very well equipped. They have the highest technology. It's not going to be an easy thing. And if you hit one, everybody that's on this side of the border is going to get activated, and you're going to start seeing car bombs, explosions, everything all over the streets of the United States. I don't think the U.S. citizen is prepared for that kind of bloodbath. I mean, you remember durante la época de Escobar in Colombia. Mm-hmm. I mean, imagine you're going to the bank or going to a shopping center and a car bomb explodes and, 15 people get shredded to pieces. That would be absolute chaos here. And it happens 3 times a day, every day for, a year and a half. It would, I think the economy, everything would collapse because this country is not used to that.
And I think the U.S. is where, and especially our military intelligence has to gather this before any type of action, because the one that has the intel is the one that has the advantage. Yeah. And I think that's what we're grabbing now. The cartel has always had the intel before us. They're always a couple of steps ahead of law enforcement. That's why they smuggle everything into the country. Now, we gain traction on that. Now we could have a response to try to avoid exactly what you're saying and contain that violence down by the border or in Mexico and not let it spill. Here's another thing that I heard of one of my friends say yesterday, actually, in an interview, and I was quite surprised, and I'm going to share it with you, see what you think, because at first I was like, nah, I didn't believe it, and I started thinking about it. But he said that he believes that the cartel members, if there was a retaliation by the United States or an attack by the United States inside Mexico, that the cartels would actually not fight back. And hear me out, because the cartels are not loyal to anybody. They're loyal to themselves.
Money.
And they would actually not want to protect another cartel member. They always want to kill each other anyway, even within the cartel. They're always fighting for positions and all that. And I started thinking, you know what? These guys are cowards when they're by themselves. That's true. I when they're together in a group, they're emboldened. But I've dealt with a lot of them individually, and you'd be like, yeah, they're killers, but they're killers with a group, And so interesting that my friend said that, and he's one that's been involved a lot in this whole world as well. And I thought, well, this is interesting. If they would kind of say, no, I'm not going to fight for them, and I don't want to get killed by the United States government.
Well, go back to Escobar, right? Cali, Medellin. They're like, go ahead, chase them down, kill them, right? It's not our problem, right?
Right.
Why wouldn't it happen in Mexico with Jalisco, Guadalajara?
Or they'll start giving each other up, right? Like, right. Oh, that's the guy.
They'll just cut deals. They're business people, right? They're going to cut a deal. And they'll say, hey, I'll help you get some of these guys, but you leave me alone. Give me a 10-year, 15-year grace period to exit the business or something, right? Something that I've heard a lot, and you brought it up on the laundering thing, and I think it's very critical, and I was reading a lot of it last night to prepare for this call. The amount of laundering that has been going on in real estate in this country has been astronomical and credited to a lot of the pricing hikes and all that. They're saying, forget Blackstone, forget these things. It's a cartel money that's really driving real estate investments, and a lot of it is being washed, especially to Texas. What do you know about that? I know you've been.
Oh my God! I was briefed on a big case by one of the chiefs. He's no longer there. As a matter of fact, they forced him out. I think he was in. I'm not sure if it was Kentucky, up there somewhere. Oh my God! The connection of the money laundering with the mortgages, and they were setting the standard. They are setting the standard for the market. Yeah. That's how big it is, and so. The prices that they would sell the house, they would pay an astronomical amount because they have the money on a property that you would think, no, as a regular person, I'm going to go buy this, just say $100,000 property. Well, they'll get it for $300,000, and you're like, well, I'm out. I can't do that. And they start setting. You do that over and over and over. All of a sudden, all the houses are $300,000. So that is a big case linked to Arizona as well. Potential maybe elected officials. I mean, this is big because think about the amount. We're talking about billions of dollars, and drugs come north, money goes south, but then the money comes back north, and that's a lot of times that people don't understand. The money is now coming back north because it has to be implemented somewhere. Now, do they have a lot of cash? Yes. But it's in the banking system. They have to put it in the banks. They have to put it in mortgage companies, used car lots, you name the business, restaurants. So I say, if you would take the illicit funds one day, magically, take the money, all the bad money from the cartels out of the banks, you would see banks in El Paso, McAllen, Laredo collapse overnight. Yeah,
I was reading about McAllen especially, and then I was also listening to, going back a little bit in history, about the mob's involvement with the cartels and how they laundered money for the cartels, the Genovese family, the Gambino, the Colombo family, especially in boxing, and how they bought boxers and controlled outcomes of fights. And they talked about, big fights, they can control Vito Alfermo, his fight against Hagler, and, Duran, Davey Moore, and et cetera. The cartels reach, and that's what people don't get. And that's why I wanted you on the show, because this is a no bullshit show, and it's long form, and it's very important to really just deep dive and explain the details, because people don't understand. They see Narcos, and they think, these people in these outskirts and these hills, and they just have parties with cocaine and women and hookers, and and they don't understand, dude, this is a business, a very sophisticated business with very deep financial ties and professionals, accountants, risk analysis analysts. I mean, everything, right?
You know what I call them? And when I do these talks in front of law enforcement, I tell them, first of all, I take away the bias of what you think a cartel member looks like. Yeah. They're not all wearing a cowboy hat with the pointy boots. That's what you're thinking. I know that's what you're thinking. Yep. No, they look like you and me, like all of us. It's a 60-year-old woman. It's a 17-year-old high school kid. It's everything in between. And every profession they've had them. We've arrested people that worked at the courthouses, giving them information at lawyers' offices. I mean, anywhere you could think of where they're gathering intel. Now, that's one thing I talk to them about, and I tell the police groups, the body that you find that either it's a poisoning, a death of fentanyl, and I tell them, and you have it in front of you, there is a connection of how that body ended up in front of you. And there's a lot of crime in the United States that's associated to the cartel that is not officially.
It's not tagged. It's not tagged as cartel.
Oh, we had a carjacking, or there was a murder in Chicago. I'm not saying all of them, but a lot of those crimes are linked to Sinaloa, Jalisco, and they're linked to them because what is it? It's their drugs, it's their supplies, their humans that they're giving, and the money. And so part of the times they treat it as an isolated incident, and it's not. It's
right, and it's just tagged as that, right? It's not tagged as a cartel crime.
That's right. And so if you really would look at it, the same thing with illegal immigration crime. They don't want to say it was an illegal alien committed because of politics or whatever reason. But when it comes to the cartel, there's a lot of crime in the United States linked to the murders, rapes, violent crimes that hits that are ordered by the cartel from wherever they're at, from inside prisons in the United States. So absolutely, you're spot on with that analysis. And the bias of what these guys are involved in. I tell the groups, I want you to think of them as Amazon. What do you think when you think of Amazon?
Yes.
Well, you think of a multi-billion-dollar industry.
Wow.
Distribution centers around the world.
Yep.
Very well organized, right? Yeah. Well, that's the cartel.
Yeah.
That's the cartel. They have billions of dollars. Yeah. They're well organized. They have distribution centers all over the world. And the only difference with them is that their practice is murder, extortion, kidnapping, and all that. That's how they function, and that's how they keep their employees in order. It's a different type of discipline, but
yeah, nobody gets written up, right? Nobody gets written up and sent home, no pay, right?
There's there is an HR, but the HR happens to be a sicario.
That's right. That's right. So let's talk about La Familia. You had a personal encounter with them. David, why don't you roll that tape? Let's hear it. Go ahead.
It's embassy, switch office.
This is Victor Avila from ICE. We are shot. We are on the highway to Querétaro, Mexico. We've been shot and attacked on the highway. I am an ICE Special Agent.
February 2011, Victor Avila calling the U.S. Embassy for help after he and his partner had been attacked on Highway 57, a road in Mexico they had been warned about. Avila had met his partner Jaime Zapata the day before their assignment had taken them on Highway 57. Avila was hired as an ICE special agent, U.S. diplomat in Mexico City, working out of the U.S. Embassy.
My main concentration in Mexico was human trafficking. I was helping dismantle organizations that traffic women and children from Mexico into...
All right, Victor, why don't you tell us a story versus a reporter? That was horrible. It made the hair stand on my head, my arms, and the rest of my body. You've told me that story personally. It is horrendous, and I know we've talked about another story about Kiki Camarena as well. My God, everybody should pray for your partner, for Special Agent Zapata and his family. Walk us through, if you can. I can imagine the memories have got to be fucking horrifying.
They are, and this month was the 14th year anniversary,
Yep.
and I can't believe how quickly time flies. But yeah, I will always talk about it. I will always mention it, and I'll talk about the memory of Agent Zapata because he paid the ultimate sacrifice in defending our homeland with his life in the line of duty. I'm here by the grace of God because I got shot 3 times. I'm telling you, there's a reason why I'm here, maybe just to do this, to bring the awareness to the people and my experience. But it was a horrible, horrible day. We were ambushed by 2 SUVs full of Zeta cartel members. Now, we didn't know they were Zeta at the time. And
so explain to people, what is a Zeta?
A Zeta is a cartel in the other side of Texas, southern portion of Texas. They control that area. The Zetas faction after all this. They faction into a group now called CDN, Cartel del Noreste, which is really on the other side of Laredo in Laredo, Texas. That's their main territory.
That's their plaza.
The Zetas are a cartel that they actually came out of the Gulf cartel. They were enforcers. A lot of them military trained and trained by the training started in Guatemala. Actually, people think in Mexico, but actually started in Guatemala. U.S. Special Forces trained some of them, and they became probably the most violent cartel out there. These are the guys that at one point he started using the violence as intimidation tactics against other cartels and terrorizing the people.
And they're fully trained too, right? Which made them super violent.
Great weapons, tactics, all of that. Very, very disciplined individuals and violent. Violent meaning these are the guys that started chopping off heads, dismembering bodies, pulling your heart out of your chest while you're still alive, burning you while you're alive, skinning people. Horrible. I've seen too many videos and I don't want to see them anymore. But these are the types that's why these guys on that day, on February 15th of 2011, they knew that we were Americans. They testified about it in court. And I'm going to give you an update that I just got this morning that nobody knows. And I'm going to share it with you. And they opened fire. They killed my partner, shot me 3 times. And they're in custody. They were extradited to the U.S. It's a big mess. It was 8 of them. Well, 1 of 7. 1 was pronounced or considered dead. And these 7, 2 went to prison for life. They never spoke. They never cooperated. The other 5 got these tremendous deals, 35, 34, 28. And the list goes down of years that they got in prison for killing a U.S. federal agent. Just this morning, I get a call from the U.S. attorney. And think about this, 14 years later, she tells me that the main guy of they call them estacas, the main guy of the hit group of these sicarios of the cartels, filed a motion, and I'm not making this up, I wish I was, filed a motion to the court to be considered for a compassionate release.
Oh my God.
Can you fucking believe that? I'm sorry for the language.
No, dude. Hey, this is a show, man. F-bombs are part of it. Are you fucking kidding me?
I just got that call about an hour before I came on, and I had to hold my breath. My daughter was sitting next to me, and she's just kind of like, calm down, Dad. And I let the attorneys talk, and they're telling me, Victor, we're fighting it. And they said, okay, we know how you feel, but go ahead, tell us. Bro. And I tell them, listen, first of all, the audacity that this fucker has to even file this motion. Some household jail lawyer probably told him about this, but nevertheless, you have to take it serious. You have to go through the motions. Yep. Now, he's saying that he's no longer a cartel member. He's rehabilitated, and he should be released compassionately for killing a U.S. federal agent and wounding another. This is what I told him. I said, obviously, you know how I feel, but remember this, and in your motion, I want you to include that this is a terrorist now.
Yeah.
And if the court would consider any kind of release, they would be considering releasing a terrorist. Because these guys are evildoers. They're evil. I don't know other word to describe.
And they are terrorists, right? I mean,
they're terrorists.
You can call them cartels, drug traffickers, but at the end, in the essence, they're terrorists because they live on terror. They live with terror and they create terror, right?
Well, I list when I do these presentations. I put the terrorist list. I use an example and then a cartel and all of the things that they're involved in. And the majority of the times, everybody picks the cartel as a terrorist. I don't tell them which one's which, by the way.
Yeah.
And because everything you talked about, the bombs, extortions, everything, the violence. As a matter of fact, they've killed more Americans than any other
terrorist organization,
group in the world, hands down. They're linked with China. They're linked with Venezuela. They're linked with Cuba. They're linked with Hezbollah, Iran. I'm telling you, this is the bigger picture about what we're talking. When we talk border security, you got to start focusing on the big picture about.
Look, I remember back in the day when Chavez was still alive, and he opened his general consul in Damascus, Syria, was giving visas to Venezuela, to Caracas, to Hamas and Hezbollah and Iranian National Army. And they were going into Venezuela, getting Venezuelan identities, going through Latin America, and doing deals with the cartels, right?
That's right. There's a financing. Everybody, just like you and I know it, all these terror groups know, hey, that's where the money is. Let's go in there and get financed by these guys. Yeah. So they'll help them with the human smuggling, trafficking, and drugs, whatever it is that they need to do to get financed and assistance through Mexico, by the way, to get into the U.S. I always said it many times. All these groups and all the illegal aliens, they know that being in Mexico was as good as being in the U.S. Because Mexico allowed all this to happen. That's why there has to be a lot of accountability on Mexico, and we have to hold them accountable because they've allowed a lot of this to happen to their country because of the corruption.
So it's perfect segue into my next question, because you just took us there by default. So it's been said, not publicly maybe, but we've always talked about it, for years, that there's always been somebody that's been linked to the cartels in every cabinet in the Mexican government for at least 25, 30 years. We know that to be a fact. There's been people that have been arrested here and then released and sent back because who knows why, right? Yes. How do you stop that? I mean, I think that's going to be the biggest challenge that this administration is going to have. You already see Mexico's president trying to push legislation in response to that list that Trump put out.
Yes.
It's not a political solution, Victor. It's just not.
It is very difficult. It's a very difficult issue because corruption is a cancer in Mexico, and there's been an evolution. It used to be where the politician had the ultimate power and used the cartels for bribery reasons, for whatever reasons. But now the tables have turned. Yep. It's the cartel has been running a parallel government for all of AMLO's term. AMLO is probably the most corrupt, believe it, but listen to what I'm about to say. It's probably the most corrupt narco-terrorist ever in the history of Mexico. And
how would you compare him to Chavez?
The president of the poor people? Yeah, that fucker.
How would you compare AMLO to Chavez? Parallel, worse, or less?
Same, communist. Socialist communist.
No, but his ties with the cartels, we know.
Easy, the same. Claudia Sheinbaum is a full-blown communist.
Yep.
He is actually in a very difficult position right now because La Morena, their party, is, they hate Donald Trump, and Claudia Sheinbaum as a president is between Donald Trump and her party, and she doesn't know what to do. She's trying to appease the party and doesn't want to get hurt by Donald Trump with the tariffs and all this other stuff, and that's what's going on right now. And she's making some, now you'll see her, the public statements. I'm not going to allow the United States to come here and violate our sovereignty and blah, blah, blah. I've heard that all many times. But underneath, covertly, she's allowing a lot of things for the U.S. to do. Here's the problem, is that the cartels control all this. The cartel, the attorneys in Mexico, the cartel members, they control the money, they control the aspect, they control the decisions, the policy. This is the big difference there. You're talking about organized crime controlling the system there. So here's the difficulty. How do you separate it? Well, you can't separate it. And I want people to understand there are good people in Mexico.
Of course.
There are people that are not corrupt and are trying to do the best, but the majority are tainted. And people say, how do you say that? Well, two of the people that I worked with when I was in Mexico, Genaro Garcia Luna, who was the head of the federal police, is in custody in New York for being a Sinaloa cartel member. The number 2 guy, Luis Palomares Colomino, responded to our shooting in San Luis Potosí. He landed in the Black Hawk helicopter there that we paid for, by the way. And he is in custody in Mexico for torture and other drug trafficking and corruption charges. Yes, they were members of the cabinet. They were members of the
police and army
in Mexico. This is how high level the corruption goes. And we were forced to work with these people because they were put in these posts. And so we knew that we had to navigate every single day about the information, how we shared it, we didn't share it, vetted groups, and all that. It gets complicated. So you're right on in how it's very difficult to separate. So at one point you say, well, we don't separate it. The United States, we have to treat them all as a corrupt entity, and then we start taking them down. And that's probably the only way that we could actually have a solution for both countries. Because when you start cleaning it up, it's going to benefit everyone. A lot of people, not just the United States and Mexico, but a lot of other people that have been, look at the lime trade, the avocado growers, the mango growers, the petroleros, the steel trade. We're talking the cartel has a hand in a lot of these businesses, and they're sick and tired of being controlled by these people because they have control of the mountains where they're growing their weed, where they're growing all this stuff, and the 100 super labs around Mexico that are making the methamphetamine and fentanyl. Now, those, I think, if you see any activity from the United States, that's probably the first thing that you're going to see. Precision attacks on taking out the labs, at least to take out the supply,
Well, we did that. We did that a lot in Peru, right? We would go there and blow up all the fucking labs, and they would just pop up another one the next day. So, it was a crazy situation. I remember when, I don't know if you remember this, but when Mexico and the U.S., Colombia and the U.S. did Plan Colombia.
Oh, yeah.
Right? And then all of a sudden Peru became the number one exporter of cocaine, and everyone was like, hey, the benefits of free trade agreements, and because, when you cut out the Colombians, all of a sudden the Mexicans went to Peru and started getting it, and they cut that margin out, gave them a lot more money and resources to go spend in Mexico, and really built Sinaloa, Guadalajara, Jalisco.
Well, that's happening now.
Yep.
And it's happening now in Mexico. You know where? To Central America.
Yes.
To Guatemala, Honduras, Ecuador, all the way down there.
Yep.
Nicaragua.
Yes.
Yes, absolutely. Especially China. China, when they got all this pressure about the fentanyl and the precursors and the chemicals they bring in, there was so much pressure. They still do it with Mexico, but they started kind of bringing it down a notch. So they said, okay, we're going to bring it into Guatemala. We're going to bring it into, the Central America and then bring it in that way. Right. So it won't be that obvious. So yes, that's what they do. They'll adjust. This is why you have to, when you eliminate the cartels, it's not just from the top down like we've done many years. No. It's from the bottom up. Yes. Because you know what the designation, what it does is if you're a gang member in the United States, let's say a drug pusher, and you're pushing drugs for the Sinaloa cartel that is not a terrorist, you're a terrorist now because you're financing a terrorist organization. You can't be working with ISIS.
Yeah.
So what do we do if we find you working with ISIS and emailing them? Well, we go pick you up, right?
Yeah.
Same thing here. There's no difference. All these people in the U.S. working with the cartels are now going to be subject to go get picked up, taken to a military place where this is not the same due process when you're dealing with terrorism. We're going to go interrogate you and then maybe take you to Gitmo, where I understand we're making a lot of space for these people to see what the hell are you. And maybe you're just a corner drug pusher, but you're interacting with a cartel, with a terrorist group. Yeah. So I think that you start dismantling at that level as well. So the people will say, oh, I'm not going to work with them. I'm not going to work with a terrorist.
I'm going to have to go get a job at a car wash or do something. But I think my days on the street pushing crap are done. So here's two questions. One, we know that the administration, Home and others have talked about a number which is about 680,000 criminal illegals, which include cartels and gangs, etc. If we're arresting about 1,000 a clip per day, right? That's going to take us over 2 years to get rid of this element. We can't go raid and take out the cartels in their homeland until we get these people here, because once we do that, they get activated, they attack us. So that's going to be a fucking problem. The other issue is, and is a little bit more complex, or maybe it's easy, everything is about fentanyl now. Nobody's talking about cocaine, and nobody's been talking about cocaine for a long time. And you look at the cocaine numbers, they have not gone down, they've gone up. Why is nobody talking about cocaine? Is that by design?
I mentioned this.
Is that by design or what?
I love your engagement because I've said in some interviews, and don't forget about the cocaine, because you're absolutely right that cocaine numbers have spiked through the roof. And guess what? Now it's also laced with fentanyl. A lot of cocaine is laced. Yep. Marijuana, heroin is laced with fentanyl. Yep. This is the problem, that fentanyl made its way to all these drugs that back then, like if you were just a regular casual cocaine user, you didn't have to worry about much. Well, now you have to worry that maybe the batch that you have has fentanyl and you're going to die if you take a hit. So Yes, that's a big problem. All the other drugs, heroin, by the way, is still very much available. Methamphetamine. I always tell you, every time I go to these police groups all around the country, you know what? Yes, we know about fentanyl, people dying, but the problem that they have on the street is with meth. Why? Because a meth user usually doesn't die. They continue to use and use and use. And what do they need? They need money. So what happens? Crime goes up, property crimes. A lot of issues with meth users. And that is the number one problem that unanimously around the country, the police and sheriff's departments tell me that they have a meth problem in their communities. So yes, we have to start taking down the meth as well, not just the fentanyl. But to your first question about the cartels, yes, and the people that we're deporting, yeah, about 700,000 of them. And remember, on top of that, there's a couple of million gotaways. So we got a lot of people that we could concentrate on here. There's a lot of differences, you know, that slowed down here in the last week or so. But let me tell you why. First of all, it's the government and it's adjusting itself, right? People are coming into new positions. People are being moved out of positions. Yep. And that's going to get worked out pretty quickly. Okay, they're going to have the people in place. Good. But then you have the sanctuary cities people blocking you, mayors, groups in LA putting out posters of the ICE officers and their addresses and phone numbers. I mean, shit like that. That's the problem. There's another problem that a lot of people are not talking about. And remember this, it's the process to remove a person from this country is not the same process under the Obama days. It was simpler back then. Plus, nobody really cared, and Obama, deported millions of people. Yep. The problem now is that when you take custody of that body, oh my goodness, if I understand a little bit and I'm still confused, let me tell you, I talk to my friends and it's a bureaucratic crap process of paperwork. It depends. Let's say it's a criminal illegal alien. Even if you were convicted of a crime, all right, good. We're going to process you. We got you. We're going to remove you. It's not just taking them back. It's, are you going to see a judge or not? Because some go through judges, some do not. Some can be voluntary return. There's expedited removals. There's different ways of removals that are not deportations. Here's another thing. There needs all this extra paperwork and policy that's been implemented since the Obama days to Biden to make it more difficult for the federal government to remove a person. Believe it or not, this is the problem. So that's why you need bed space to hold the body, because we need to go through all this stupid paperwork to get them processed out. Where did you come in from? What time? What era did you come in? Under the Biden? Did you come in through a program? Oh my God, all this crap that matters. I'm thinking, hey, even when I was working, that didn't exist. No, it didn't. These are new policies. So that's going to be cleaned out, I think. It's going to take a little bit to eliminate and make it a one-pager, Yeah. Jose Lopez, you're out. Boom, boom, boom. You were convicted of this crime or not, or just charged with you, and you're out, and get them out and put them on planes and go. That's going to end up becoming a mainstream process, and you're going to see it. Plus, I like the fact that we have I've never seen this in my career. We've got DEA, FBI, U.S. everybody's on board. Now, I had heard some reports that there's some like FBI agents and other people like, hey, we don't do Title VIII, which is immigration. Yeah. We're not immigration. No, that's not, we don't, sometimes, and these might be leftists, I don't know. They get caught up with the narrative from the left, and that is pulling at your heartstrings. You're not a compassionate person. You're not humanitarian. You're a racist for trying to get a person out of the country. And listen, you have to understand that the law is a law, and it has nothing to do with what I look like. And what it has to do is the oath that you took to be a federal agent and a federal investigator. To a crime is a crime, and you got to remove people, especially the ones that have come in here and committed horrible crimes against
atrocities. Absolutely.
I talked to those victims. Ivan, I talked to the victims. Many of the victims that were killed by illegal aliens, their son or daughter, or have died at a poisonous counterfeit pill. Many of them, hundreds of them I've met with. And when you hear their stories, that's the compassion that I have. Is they're the real victims. They did get separated from their families indefinitely. So we're at different times.
It's horrible. Somebody that I know from growing up as a kid, his younger brother died from a fentanyl overdose. I know somebody else whose niece died I mean, dude, it's fucked up. I mean, she was doing heroin, she was addicted, and I guess he got laced with fentanyl and fucking died as well. So the situation's horrible. Just real quick, I know we have about a minute and a half with you. One question: what is your everyday carry?
My P320 SIG.
Oh, nice.
I was a Glock guy.
Here's my SIG.
Yes, sir. I was a Glock 19. I still have a Glock 19. I'm surgical with that. Like, what's the movie with Denzel Washington? I'm surgical with that bitch. My Glock 19 is, but when I had the SIG for many years now, I love my SIG, man. I got my red dot on it.
Yes.
My P320, that's my everyday carry.
That's fantastic. And 1 minute left, real quick, and we'll leave it there for the next time you come back because there's so much to talk about, man. We need to do this on a regular basis. I really believe that this conversation needs to be front and center all the time as much as possible. How bad is the organ harvesting or trafficking within this human trafficking stuff that is happening within the cartels? It's never talked about, and I know it's horrendous. People disappear, they're never found again, and they are being taken out and harvested, right?
Yes, and I'll leave you with this. It exists.
There you go.
So the people that even that doesn't happen. That's in the movie. Listen, I just got chills. I wish it didn't. And there's some atrocities that I saw that I'll never share with anybody. I don't share my wife because I'll take those to my grave because that's how bad. I mean, things that in my mind that I've seen one human being doing to another, especially a child. It's evil. And one of those is organ harvesting. And yes, it's an underground, very, very culture dark system that exists.
A lot of money.
Out it, but I love to come back and we'll talk more because you know what? It's evolving here almost on a daily basis.
I know.
This is changing. Man, I do an interview in the morning and then it changes in the afternoon. And the interview I do in the afternoon, well, wait a minute. I said, never mind what I said in the morning because it's changed.
That's right.
I mean, it's that fluid right now, but I'd love to come back with you. And
let's do it, man. Let's do it. Let's talk offline and let's set something up, but let's make you a regular here. This thing needs to be talked about every week, daily, all the time. I mean, the American people do not know what can possibly fucking hit us if this shit goes fucking south. Victor Avila, you're the fucking man. You're the boss, dude. Thank you so much for coming on, and we'll see you again, hopefully very soon.
Appreciate you, brother. I'll see you next time.
Take care, bro. All right, guys. It doesn't get any more clear than this. I hope you paid attention. I have been talking about this crap for over a decade, for a long, long time. People do not take this serious. They see Narcos. They see, Tony Montana, Scarface, they don't really understand how this works, how complicated, how sophisticated a network it is. Professionals, not just thugs, capos, sicarios and people like that. But this thing is huge. Like you said, think about it as Amazon, right? It's got every single layer from the truck driver, from the delivery guy, from accounting and legal and HR. And he goes, yeah, HR is a sicario. You don't get written up. You just get taken out back and shot or beheaded. But yeah, it is a very complicated situation. Heads up, pay attention. And now if you're part of this crap, you better get the fuck out because now you're considered a terrorist. We'll see you tomorrow. There's a lot more shit coming. Take care.